I mean, you can't really sugarcoat that as a subject. And he opened just with this big black slide with white text on it. It just said capitalism. So it got the attention of everyone, I think.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Off Script. Today we are talking about ffconf.
I think we're okay. How's my hair look?
Your hair looks lovely, Josh.
Thank you.
Have you been conditioning it since you've been back from ffconf?
I have. I have. I've been looking after my hair, especially well after ffconf.
Yeah, just with blood, sweat and tears.
Blood, sweat and tears. It's been a tough week. It's only Wednesday.
Yeah, it feels like Friday.
It really does.
Already.
It really does. How's your week going?
Yeah, good. It over the hump. So yeah, lots of debugging and upgrading stuff this week so far. But yeah, we're getting there.
Brilliant.
Got some big launches coming. So
nice. What are the big ones?
Launching a browser.
Nice.
To the App Store and Play Store.
Casually, as you do.
And a few other bits and bobs. Some big shoe brand stuff going out.
Nice. Well, there's only a few of them, so
can't
I can speculate who that
can't
could
mention
be.
which one. But yeah, that'll be really good. What about you?
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've been recovering from ffconf, to be honest, as well as having a really busy week with client work with Logically. So it's been quite full on.
Nice.
But no, it was amazing. I went down to ffconf last week. I went down on a Thursday, hung out at the kind of pre-conf social and met some people, which was lovely.
Nice. So you're trying to gather speakers for the next all-day Hey, aren't you?
Yeah, I promised Remy I wasn't there just to hoover your fantastic speaker selection up. But no, it's always nice to go to different conferences and be inspired, obviously, and try and think about the kinds of talks that you want to program for the next conference. So it gave me, we did the roundup for Beyond Tellerand. And it was really nice to go and just see how Remy does it. I've been once before in 2019 before COVID and everything.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to come with you, but we've got quite a busy time of launches. But yeah, I saw Remy's Game Boy thing, which is absolutely incredible.
So, and it's such a Remy thing to do, it seems, as well. Like he's been hacking these Game Boys for a while and buying old Game Boys and reconditioning them, and it seems like a real labour of love for him. So when he gifted these Game Boys that were preloaded with a ffconf game with the speakers and
cool,
and then during the
speakers' faces in as well.
Yeah,
in the Game Boy game.
I don't even know where the fuck you'd start if you're making a Game Boy game. But he did such a good job of it, and also you could then play this game on the web, so everyone could go to ffconf.org/game, I think it was.
Nice.
And you can literally play the Game Boy game in your browser with your keys, or if you're on desktop and everything. It's
awesome.
Just cool. Makes me feel shit about our speaker packs.
I want to sack it all up and make Game Boy games now. Can we do that?
Yeah, I think I'm keen.
Yeah, all day Hey Game Boy game.
Yeah.
If you want to commission that, just pay me in beer. I'll do it.
Or we just get Remy to do it.
Yeah,
he's obviously a pro at it. But no, it was really nice. Met some lovely people who I've never seen in real life before, but I have known on that dying platform we know as Twitter.
Yep.
Met Stu Robinson, Heydon I met in person. I met Amy Hupe, which was great.
Nice.
And Dave as well, who runs State of the Browser. So
amazing.
Had some lovely beers with them the night before.
Yeah. So you weren't too foggy on the actual conference day, or?
Do you know what? I think I cooked it just about right.
Nice.
Which was a nice change for me.
Yeah, that's good.
But I went and met Cheeton and Matt, who run a regular ffconf pre-conf run.
Oh, nice.
And it was great. It was only actually me that turned up.
Right.
But it was really nice to meet them and to chat to them. And we ended up doing I ended up doing a 10K before the conference.
Oh, amazing.
Which was an unbelievable surprise to me.
Yeah.
We just went down the promenade, which was a really nice way to start the day.
Yeah, I would not have been able to do that.
Well, I started thinking I couldn't be asked, but we got, we were chatting as we were running and just talking about, what they do and what I do. And it's just, again, the beauty of these sorts of conferences, you're always meeting people wherever you are, really.
Nice.
Which is great.
Reinvent in a few weeks. There is a 5K and a 7K down the strip, I think, which I'll try and get on. But
that'd be good.
Yeah.
See if the temptations of Vegas stop you from getting.
I know, that's the problem with Vegas, isn't it? You don't know what time of day it is. Everything's oxygen pumping into it.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
So you're going there in a few weeks, are you?
A few weeks, yeah, a week and a half, I think. Yeah.
Amazing.
And then, yeah.
That'd be good.
Just 5 days of nerding out on cloud stuff.
And the beauty is, in some ways, you're not speaking this year, so you can just soak up all the talks and relax a bit. Which is great.
And try and memorize another 20 Amazon product names. Which surely there's enough products now.
You need a cheat sheet. I always feel like when I open the AWS console and I click on the menu, that is your cheat sheet, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they've given up now and they just started calling it what it is, like AWS search thing. They're not even coming up with names anymore.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, at least you know what they do.
Yeah, so. That's true. So how was the first talk?
The first talk was really, really good. It was by Florence Okoye. It was called Designing as We Want to Create the Experiences That We Need. And it was just a really nice opener to... The thing about conferences is you've got to really plan the programming of the day. And you've got to get the energy right on the talks. And Remy nailed it on this one. This was just about... the design justice framework and generally just talking about designing experiences. And one of the things that stood out to me was this thing called the design justice framework, which is really cool because it talks about who is the thing that you're designing for, who might be harmed by the thing that you're creating, and who will benefit from the thing that you're creating.
Oh, nice. So it just makes sure that you're thinking about any sort of biases and racism and things like
exactly. I guess just thinking really consciously about all eventualities of what you're building. We're going to talk about GPT-3 in the next episode, and I think it's really important for things like that too, because the knock-on effect of technology you're building with the power of technology like GPT-3 is it can be abused, right? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And we'll only see more and more of that, especially as Twitter starts to crumble. I'm sure there'll be even more bots on it.
Yeah, exactly.
But Justice Design Framework sounds like a helpful thing to do during the design and implementation. Yeah,
definitely. It was a really, really good talk. And one of the quotes that I took away from it was that most people do care about issues like privacy, security, algorithmic bias, and systemic racism, but they might be using a different language from us to talk about that.
Yeah.
So it was talking very much about people are probably really aware of these things, but they don't articulate it in the same way that you do. They might use different language, but ultimately we can't assume that people are necessarily trying to be harmful from the outset. I think sometimes they might just be describing the problem that you're trying to solve in a different way.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Which was really interesting. It definitely made me think quite a lot about everything, particularly logically, that we're doing at the moment. We're building quite powerful technology to understand mis and disinformation, and we talk about this a lot inside the company about the ethics of it and the morality of it, and it's just a really interesting opener to the day, really.
Amazing.
So before I forget, I need to shout out, so it's not just Remy that organises ffconf, Julie is his wife.
Oh, nice.
Together they do an amazing job. I think Julie does, sorry Remy, most of the hard work.
Well, he's too busy with the Game Boys, right? So.
Exactly. He's like, sorry, I can't help with that. I'm building Game Boys.
I'm not playing Pokemon. I'm actually working.
This is work. But no, so Julie and Remy make an amazing kind of team. It's really cool that they always bring the kids to the events. Actually, one of their kids was helping this year.
Oh, nice.
So trying to get some free labour going.
Amazing.
But no, it's really nice to see. It's a family effort, and Julie does an amazing job of kind of setting a lot of the things up around the day, and then Remy obviously looks at the speakers and everything. So,
nice.
So that first talk was a really nice opener, and then it went very heavily into Heydon's talk, Heydon Pickering's talks.
This was on capitalism, the web, and you, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you can't really sugarcoat that as a subject. And he opened just with this big black slide with white text on it. It just said capitalism. So it got the attention of everyone, I think. And it started to talk very much around, capitalism as a system, and capitalism as how it kind of works and affects us working in the web, as well as generally how it works. So talked a lot about capitalism plus labour equals more capital, how labour is a really important part of this, and how labour is obviously exploited quite commonly in this system to make more money, but obviously to then at the disadvantage of other people. Which was very interesting.
Contribute to the organisation rather than yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then everyone gets laid off.
Yeah, pretty much. So he was quite respectful in the way that he tackled this, because obviously it is quite a sensitive subject. And talked a lot about the destruction of value in the capitalist system, and talked a lot about exploitation. So talked very much about the definition of exploitation, talked about slavery, really difficult subjects to tackle, actually.
Well, the gig economy is only a hop, step and a jump for me. Like, it's not abiding by the general rules of employment, really. Usually, like, people are getting way under minimum wage and juggling lots of things, and it's very sporadic, and you could be waiting around for something.
Pretty much.
It's not. It's just to serve the corporation, isn't it, rather than the individual. Yeah, which is,
it's interesting, and I think at this time when we're facing a really sensitive and scary time in technology, economically, there's a lot of things going on at the moment. We're seeing mass layoffs, not just in the US and not with huge employers like Meta and Twitter and so on. We're seeing it across the board, and it is concerning to see how some of the things are going. So I think it's a really valuable thing to talk about. Obviously, it seems like we have to be careful about where we talk about that, because Elon Musk, for example, doesn't particularly like people talking about it on Twitter.
So while you may think you work for a tech company, there might be a sort of an abuse underbelly, like, I don't know, if Deliveroo, what their riders, and I guess they think they're relatively good.
I mean, Uber's been under fire in the past with exploitation of drivers, unsafe working conditions in terms of the hours they're expected to work and so on. I think due to many different reasons, probably unions more than anything, that they're getting better. But it was a really good talk to kind of re-centralize everyone's focus on the ethics of the industry and the treatment of people by employers. He definitely focused on that this is a well-paying industry, and we recognize that, but equally, if there's a lot of money somewhere, that money has to come from somewhere, and often it doesn't necessarily come from a genuine source.
Nice.
So,
very good point.
And you mentioned NFTs as a result of that. Which
NFTs. Well, all that can fuck off.
Well, that's essentially what he said. He talked about NFTs being obviously a lot of bullshit, but also perception of value in NFTs and all that sort of stuff.
The bottom's fallen out of all that, definitely.
Well, he went quite out there with an example. He used an image of SpongeBob SquarePants as Patrick sitting on Squidward's face.
Nice.
As an example of his NFT.
Okay.
Which it caught the attention of the room, let's say. He used some terminology I'd never heard before. But
which is too colourful for the podcast, even if they've just used all the swear words in the past ones.
Heydon's presentational style is fantastic, and you really do need to watch Heydon's talk. I'm sure it'll be released at some point. But in general, the way he delivers information is really kind of attention grabbing, and it really gets to the point, and his delivery is just so slick and smooth. I really did appreciate that. And
nice.
And also he used kind of CSS browser support for certain pieces of functionality as like a lightener between. So he'd be talking about capitalism 1 minute, he'd be like, and now accent colors are supported in all major browsers. So
nice.
It was really
that's pretty cool.
It got a fair few laughs, to be honest. So that was really good.
Nice.
After Heydon, Lex Lofthouse did a really great talk on design for developers. I love really nicely designed things. As anyone does, really. But with the new Hey Presents site, I took a lot of time to try and get the typography, the blend of content versus visuals right, and to try and really pay attention to spacing and try and make the content as accessible as possible.
Nice.
And Lex's talk kind of didn't just focus on this. It was basically about design tips for devs, but talked a lot about font pairings and font sizing and spacing tips, and being more conscious about how you're placing content and how that can be interpreted by different people.
Amazing.
Really good.
Yeah, I do like the content tailored towards devs. Like Tailwind, Adam has written a great book about how you present data and all that kind of stuff for applications. But it's very much focused towards devs getting good at it rather than designers. And it's definitely a good read.
Because if you look at the progression of design systems and generally how devs have designed, we had Bootstrap, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But if you look at the early days of Bootstrap, there wasn't much association with here's a component and here's how it probably should be used properly. And as a result of that, you get these horrendously designed interfaces by devs, which me and you've probably both done.
Yeah, well, we use design by dev as a derogatory term at Parallax, like for some ropey admin area. Yeah, we've all seen it. Yeah, and I've definitely been very much involved in the creation of horrendous interfaces like that. So I'll put a select drop down here and a submit button. That'll be fine, won't it?
Yeah.
No, that's awful.
The usage is clear. Everyone will understand how to use that. Oh dear, it's deleted something. So no, it was really cool. One of the examples that she gave was around a listing on a real estate website. So she started with an example of a listing with the guide price of the property and how many bedrooms and so on. Just showed how you could make that more visually appealing and visually understandable. So,
nice.
Looking at the real key data that you want to emphasize the most, look at image treatment, things like that. It was really good. Took a good example as well of like a hero image, a call out, what's the biggest action you want your user to do on this page, and start to really look at the kind of design that you want to get those outcomes.
Awesome.
So that was really good. Cool. So next up we had Sophie Kunin, whose talk was just a nostalgic trip through time. It was amazing. So it was called "This Talk is Under Construction: A Love Letter to the Personal Website."
Nice.
And it was so good.
I miss the under construction GIFs and things that you used to put on your GeoCity sites.
Yeah. Well, she did. I've not shown you these slides actually, but she did her talk in this kind of setup of an old browser.
Nice.
And the under construction GIF did play part in that, which was really good.
A little roadwork sign and
it was so
someone
good.
Digging.
Yeah, I mean, they were the good days, weren't they?
Yeah.
But no, so it was really about building your own website and really to get back into the beauty of a space that you control, you create, especially with what we're seeing with Twitter at the moment.
Yeah.
We're plowing a lot of time and effort into putting our thoughts somewhere, but we don't really own the place that it exists in.
Yeah.
And obviously what we're seeing right now is the very real threat of that being taken away from us and losing that archive of content.
Because is Medium still owned by Twitter?
I don't know, but I imagine that'll probably go the same way.
That would be bad if it is.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I think lots of people are going to be setting up personal blogs now.
Well, that's the beautiful thing from seeing Sophie's talk and then seeing where it's gone over the last few days. People are starting to really panic. Everyone's getting on Mastodon. More and more people are now creating personal websites.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for the electricity costs going up, you could host it from your own house as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Bring the distributed nature of the web, really? Without the NFT blockchain bollocks. Just the normal distributed bit, where you distribute it without any blockchain.
But then obviously you got to ignore the cost of living crisis and everything like that. So.
Yeah, so obviously just put it all in one place with Amazon.
So she was talking very much about the modern web is not really for creators, it's for consumers. And it's a really good point. She had this really great slide that was just like websites equals business, which was brilliant because we spend a lot of time in our day jobs building things for money. That's generally fine. That's how it works. But also she wanted to kind of reinvigorate people on the joy of creating a personal website in a space that you own and control. And it was just a really great talk. She was talking about building a website as a radical act in this day and age, which I really enjoyed. And she went through some really great examples of websites out there that you can go and get inspiration from, cool design ideas, cool ideas of just things that inspire you, really.
Nice.
Which was great. And she just basically said get weird, build weird shit, build stuff that's not supported in every browser because it doesn't matter, it's your personal site, experiment. It's
a good shout.
Really good. So yeah, and she quoted NeoCities as well, which was important. It's time we took back our personalities from these sterilized, lifeless, monetized, data mined, monitored addiction machines and let our creativity flourish again.
Nice, like Ling's cars.
So yeah, it was a really great talk.
Love it.
I really enjoyed it. So check that out.
It almost inspired me to if I had any time, make my own website.
Yeah. It's it definitely left me with the itch to go and tinker a bit more. I've got the Stack website, but I've not really improved it much in a while, and I really want to get back to that. So yeah, get yourself a domain name. Buy yourself a domain name. First side project task of anything.
Yeah, and then ignore it until the renewal email comes through.
And then feel that overwhelming guilt that you've done nothing with it.
Exactly.
So the after, I think this might have been after lunch, went and had some amazing chicken wings.
Oh nice.
My god! This place opposite the Duke of York's Picture House called the Joker, and it was amazing. These like deep fried wings.
Oh, amazing!
With like sauces on them and chips.
Why didn't you bring any back?
Because I hate them all. And then I felt rather snoozy in the afternoon.
Yeah, you need someone to just sort of kick you out of it.
Yeah.
And then so you had Lily.
Yes, Lily's talk was really amazing. I kind of missed the start of it, sadly, because of
digesting chicken wings.
Well, sadly, one of the problems was that the chicken wings took a very long time to come. So I did miss the start of Lily's talk.
No excuse.
Yeah, no. But no, I felt really bad because I genuinely do hate missing the start of a talk, and it's not very respectful. So when I finally got a seat, this was just a really, really cool talk about the comparisons from using Yarn. When I saw programming with Yarn, I thought it meant the package manager.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, how's this going to go?
Everybody hates package managers.
Yeah. But no, it was really good. So this was about literal yarn, as in like the yarn that you knit and sew with, which was really cool. And it was just about the comparisons between, and there's loads of really amazing programmer to yarn puns, like we're going to have to deal with multi-threading now and things like that. I like it. And I was absolutely loving that.
So is this like what, the electric yarn or what?
So started talking about how we'd like bridge the gap a little bit. So how you'd literally program things like a loom. So one of the great examples that she gave was using Lego to build what's it called? What's the Lego brand called where you can literally invent whatever?
Technics.
Yeah, Technics.
Yeah.
So someone had built a loom out of Technics.
Nice.
And it was really cool because it was knitting this really beautiful, elaborate pattern on a square of material. And then started talking about the techniques used to sew and or sew to knit or sew. I can't remember if they're the same thing, so apologies if I got this wrong. But talking about different methods to like create patterns, and then went into how there's lots of similarities between that and programming, and talked about in the early days some of the looms used programmatic patterns like punch cards to sew patterns onto jumpers and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So started to talk about all the kind of similarities between that. She also used DALL-E to generate some of her slides, which is really cool.
Awesome.
A human computer crocheting was her example of DALL-E, and it basically created something that looked like Morph. If you remember Morph,
yeah.
Days. But that was really cool. But no, sadly, because I missed some of the talk, I didn't get the full context, so I'd be doing an injustice if I tried to summarize it. But all I can say, it was really cool. There was loads of hat tips to famous female kind of inventors and creators like Ada Lovelace, and it was just really good.
Awesome.
So
big fan of punch cards as well.
I'm sure the videos will be released. If they do and they're available publicly, you need to watch it, because I'm going to watch it back and actually understand what she was on about, because it was super interesting. I just didn't have the context from the opening 5 minutes to really catch it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So the one after that was Natalia Waniczek, who was talking about working towards a greener world from behind the keyboard. And again, with the flow of talks, it was just a really well-placed talk, got people's attention after lunch. And this was really about green engineering, but also trying to contrast that with some of the wider things that we're seeing at the moment. So her opening slide was, we only have 10 years left.
Right.
And we've really not got long to turn around a lot of the things that we're doing to the earth, and a lot of the irreversible damage we're doing to the earth. So she did open with a content warning saying this is not going to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you need a talk that really hits you in the face and tells you the truth of what's going on. And I think a tech talk is a really good place to do that. A tech conference is a good place to do that because we as creators are very responsible for what we do.
Yeah. Maybe using AI and blockchain is not the most green and responsible thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think she called out NFTs and blockchain directly because it's such an easy
low
punch bag. But
yeah,
she focused a lot on green engineering and things like that, but also talked a lot about our general usage as consumers and how that really impacts things. So the most recent 7 years, for example, from 2015 to 2021, were the warmest on record. Music streaming accounted to 200 to 350 million kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
That sounds like a lot. I don't really know what that amount is, though.
Yeah, like how can you quantify it? I think one of the examples she gave was something about the energy usage of Germany or something over the course of a year. I think I might be misquoting that, but it was something crazy like that. And you just think, wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Things like streaming on Spotify 8 hours a day for 21 working days emits as much CO2 per month as driving 20 miles in a car.
Wow.
Which I didn't think 20 miles is that much, but actually when you think about it, it's quite a lot. That's like halfway to York.
Yeah.
It's quite crazy from Leeds. But yeah, so from there, she kind of came out of these facts to talk about, green engineering, thinking about key areas like data centers, data transfer, device energy, talked about green engineering principles and things like that.
Nice, because you can do things like store things locally, like for IoT, it's like fog, isn't there, which is a bit closer than the cloud.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff that you can build in.
I love the whole fog analogy. It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's like a really close cloud.
Yeah. But no, it's really good. And just going through the green engineering principles, thinking about your users, where your users are based, how you can optimize, regions that you're hosting things in, as well as generally just thinking about, if you're going to program a website with loads of graphics, loads of animations and like animated GIFs, think about the impact of like actually displaying that on the devices, the energy consumption that's based around that sort of stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
So towards the end of the day now, there's two talks left. The second to last one was Sarah Hadari, and her talk was on digital exclusion in healthcare and how to change it.
Yeah.
This was an amazing talk.
Very important because not everyone has the same level of access to the internet or devices as everyone else. So
no, exactly. And this was just a really, really nice talk. A really nice talk towards the end of the day as well, to get people thinking as they leave the conference about, we're taking a digital first approach in a lot of areas since COVID. Digital has been an incredible thing. Digital first approach has been great through COVID, but also thinking about who that excludes as well as who it opens up the possibilities for. So yeah, just really interesting.
Yeah, and even though smartphones are a lot more common, it's not to say everyone's got one or is able to use them.
No.
Like maybe due to disability or other reasons. But yeah, you still see people going to the library and using the computers there and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the great things towards the end of her talk she talked about was there's a thing called the Digital Device Bank, I think it was called, and the Digital Data Bank, where you can now loan devices and data plans to be able to get access to things you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's really cool. Apart from the fact that I had Andy Bell sitting in front of me and blocking my entire view because he's got a big head. It was a really amazing talk. So from kind of the start, she talked about 1 in every 5 people in the UK are in poverty, which is just an absolutely shocking figure.
That is shocking.
And talk through what digital exclusion really means. So from where you're based in the UK, your access to good data, is your data patchy or unreliable? Do you have disabilities where you might need screen readers or different devices if you're visually impaired? As well as things like if you're a member of a traveller community, you won't have a fixed address. So how do you get access to healthcare without a fixed address?
Yeah.
A lot of places, as we're seeing with other areas as well, like banks need an address. If you want to open a
how many sign-up forms have you built with just required by default address on it? Yeah.
Exactly. Literally everyone I've built has had like a requirement for that.
Yeah.
And obviously talked and touched on things like food banks and everything like that, which is going on at the moment as well. So the conversation was around how can we change things. I didn't realize this figure, but 15% of adults in England have an English literacy level of 9 to 11 years old.
I didn't know that.
Which is a really crazy stat. And she was talking very much about how we need to design products to take this into mind.
Yeah.
So she mentioned the Plain English, I want to say consortium or something like that, which is now an initiative to really ensure that we use the plainest language possible to describe something. So she was using examples on GP websites where things are quite convoluted and not so clear.
Yeah.
So an example was before the text was an information helpline is also operated by ABC Hospital Trust for the convenience of patients. Actually, what you're saying is we also run an information helpline for your convenience.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, just simple tweaks. There's a really good product that Silktide have got where you put your domain name in. It'll do a bunch of other checks, but one of them is reading age.
Oh, nice.
And it'll break it down by page, and then any of the complex ones you can sort and go in and fix them. But
who's that? Sorry,
Silktide.
Silktide. We'll put it in the show notes because that's great.
Very, very handy.
She talked a lot about health literacy. Your own ability to understand and make decisions about your own health is probably something a lot of us take for granted.
Yeah.
First of all, we've got a friend as a doctor, which definitely does help because you always ask her questions. But generally just being aware of people's health literacy, not just health literacy, general literacy as well, was really good. She also gave a really good shout out to the GovUK design standards and talking about single actions per page. So simplified technical complexity for people by just asking one thing at once from them.
Yeah.
So things like, when you're ordering your COVID tests in the early days, what's your NHS number? Okay, we've got that. Now on to what's your address. Now, it's always a stepped process.
Quite overwhelming seeing everything at once, can't it?
Yeah, hugely. And she closed on a really poignant point, which is to really help influence policy in the public space. So internet access as a human right was really something that she shouted out. A lot of stuff is actually becoming digital only in a lot of areas. So giving internet access as a human right is a huge thing.
Awesome.
That was Sarah's talk was amazing. It left me really inspired and thinking about all the things that we're building these days and thinking about the implications on different user groups.
I'll definitely watch that. That sounds right up my street.
Tied really nicely into the earlier talk from Florence as well around designing as we want. It was just a really, really nice tie into the start of the day as well.
Awesome. And then what was the final talk of the day?
Oh, we finished on a really fun one. So Ruth John finished the day with a talk called Day Disco. And I've had the fortune of seeing Ruth talk before actually at my own conference, which was great. And Ruth's awesome because her talk style is so relaxed. You just want to sit and listen to her for hours, just geek out about the web.
Awesome.
Day Disco was basically about using audio web APIs to create really fun things. So she pulled out audio context, oscillators, things like that to create really fun sounds.
Awesome.
And then she used that to create essentially a sequencer in the browser. Super cool. Did a really cool hat tip to Roland's web version of this. I don't know if you've seen it, but they've got all that.
I think I've seen it. Yeah, the 808 thing.
So you've got the TR, you've got all of them actually. But she used the TR 909 as an example on there. But you've got all the Roland drum machines available in the browser to program.
Amazing.
Just fucking cool. And then she did a really cool tie into that where she plugged in a MIDI device and used the MIDI API to then control the drum machine.
There's definitely some MIDI fans at the web browser companies because that's not a high priority item, is it?
No.
Like, let's bake MIDI in.
Absolutely. Like MIDI support is so good now where you can map it all up like any sort of controller. You can see the intersection between music geeks and web builders.
That's their 20% time.
Yeah, exactly. Roland Studio it was called. Sorry, Roland Studio.
Nice.
So we'll put that in the show notes, but you could lose hours to it. It's a time sink and a half. You can just have so much fun with it.
Nice.
But then she also used the web API to look at like gain levels of audio waves and then use that to then power like lights and visuals in the browser.
I like that.
And then the disco came alive, which was great. She used Chic actually in one of the samples, which I thought, well, that's your stream gone because YouTube copyright's going to be all over that.
I'm a big fan of DMX controlled lights. Been looking at smoke machines and all sorts. So
yeah, we can geek out about this for sure. So yeah, awesome. Really great end to the day. Really fun end to the day. Finishing on Web MIDI was just really fun. I'm sure about 10 or 20 people left, immediately bought a MIDI device and started playing around with it.
So when's the next ffconf?
I'm not sure on the exact date, but I imagine it'll be around November, which will be amazing. So November 2023. It was on the 11th, I think, this time round.
What's the sort of ballpark of the tickets?
I think it's about 150 to 200 from what I remember.
Nice.
But as always, super accessible. Scholarship tickets available, minority and diversity tickets available as far as I remember. Super amazing event. You'll get speaking to everyone. Everyone's super friendly. The post social event is a really nice space on the promenade, so you get to see the sea and you get to have a drink in the fresh air.
Oh, yeah, I mean that sounds lovely.
But yeah, it was just a really great day, and I got to meet some lovely people there as well, which was
some nice drinks and chicken wings and people.
Yeah. What more could you ask for from a conference?
Well, exactly.
But yeah, easily one of my favorite conferences. So get stuck in. It was sold out this year. It'll sell out next year. Definitely get there early so you don't miss out.
Awesome. I think I'll be there next time.
Cool. Or we can live it in person. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much for listening. That was another episode of Off Script. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, and all the rest.